Hello builders! This is The Engine. I'm your host, Sasha Berry. The Engine is a show about building in crypto and with crypto. And whether you're already building in the space or you're just trying to figure out what this whole crypto, Web3, blockchain, Onchain thing is about, you're in the right place. Stick around, because today we're talking about building in consumer crypto and crypto art. And my guests are Lyall and DevonFigures. Jordan has been building in the space for a long time. He is the founder of VenturePunk. It's a venture studio behind Prohibition, Skylab Community, and many other projects. Before that, in the previous cycle, he was one of the co-founders of Nifty. It's an NFT platform that launched some of the household names into the world of NFTs, projects such as Matrix and Game of Thrones, and we talk about that in our interview. Prior to that, Jordan founded Meme Project, which was one of the early experimental NFT protocols. And before that, he led the product team for the DeFi division at Consensus and served as Chief Product Officer at Total, a crypto liquidity network. So a lot of experience. He also recently launched, semi-recently, about a year ago, he launched Heart and Craft, which is an NFT inclusive collection, which you can still mint. And it's merging the digital and physical, inviting the holders to create 3D prints of their NFT hearts that they can design themselves. You can go to the website and do it right now. Jordan co-created this collection with Snowfro. That was his foray into the world of generative art. So he has a ton of experience as a builder. My other guest is DevonFigures, who is also interested in the intersection of digital and physical and art. He is the founder of White Walls app, which is bridging the gap between digital ownership and physical viewership. And they're doing that by activating the displays that we already have. Basically, if you have an Apple TV, you can have all your beautiful art NFTs displayed on it verifiably as yours, and I think it's very cool. We started our conversation in the memory lane of 2021, which is both cringy, but also a lot of good memories were made there, and it was a special time for sure for our industry and a lot of memories. We talked about some of the lessons that we have learned from that time, both as builders and as enthusiasts and degens, you may say. We of course touch on my favorite subject, which is harnessing degen energy as builders and finding ways to direct it into sustainable forms. Jordan and Devon both talk very honestly and vulnerably about being builders in the space, and that's my favorite stuff. So a lot of great knowledge there, and I can't wait to dig into it. But first, a quick word about core contributors of the first season of The Engine, Threshold Network and Build Cities. Threshold Network provides a suite of threshold cryptography services. So if you're building an application that involves private data and trusting an intermediary won't fly, you may want to check out Taco, which is the only encryption and access control plugin that is end-to-end decentralized. So what is Taco for? Builders are using it in various applications such as seed phrase recovery, crypto inheritance, media libraries management, and even concealing in-game assets. And these are just some of the use cases. You can use Taco to build a decentralized password manager or location sharing plugin, or even a live streaming platform, or any other dApp that involves private data. So go to threshold.network, check out Taco documentation, and see how you can easily integrate that plugin into your dApp. Build Cities is a global cooperative of startup cities. The world is changing rapidly. Resources and expertise that are so needed to create businesses and innovation used to be locked into certain ecosystems for centuries. But now, these resources are flowing freely around the world, empowering local communities. Passports and visas may still limit our ability to travel, but we can teleport anywhere over Zoom and collaborate with our partners all over the world. Build Cities is creating a digital infrastructure that empowers this collaboration and innovation and connects builders from all over the world. Check out their website and see how in this new world, Lagos is not far from Los Angeles and London, and Nassau is right next to Phuket and Paris. You can join the community right now with your Discord login. You can also mint a Dream, which is a collaborative AI NFT that serves as a pass to the entire Build Cities ecosystem, including all of their IRL events throughout the year around the country. The link is in the description. One more thing. If you're going to Bitcoin conference in Nashville in a couple weeks, make sure to check out the Build Cities event, which is Building Network States Bitcoin edition. It's gonna be on July 26th. I'm gonna put the link in the description. I'm sure it's gonna be awesome. And turns out I'm going to Bitcoin conference, so that's gonna be my first, and it's gonna be interesting. And last but not least, the engine is powered by Skylab, a community of Web3 builders. It's an amazing community. We often describe it as AA for founders because we do share our truths and we do support each other, but we definitely are not trying to quit being founders. Quite the opposite. We're trying to stick with it and support each other through all the ups and downs of the process. So if you're a builder in the space, not necessarily a founder, but if you are building and you're looking for fellow riders on the roller coaster, check out skylab.xyz. The membership is free, but it's invitation only. So fill out the form and somebody will reach out to you. All the links are in the description. And now let's dive into my conversation with Jordan Lyall and DevonFigures. Hi everybody, the engine is here and we have Devon and Jordan here. We're going to be talking about the intersection and overlappings of crypto art and consumer crypto. And is there still crypto art? Is there going to be ever consumer crypto? We're going to get into it. But first, I always ask all of my guests, what brought you into crypto? What was the light bulb moment for you when you first got into it? How did you make sense of it? Jordan, I've known you for like 2 years now and we've never had a chance to chat. So I'm really excited to hear about your origin story.
Yeah, thanks so much, Sasha. Great to be here. The light bulb moment for crypto, it was 2013, 2014, I think. I just kept seeing this word Bitcoin. I didn't know what it meant. I kept seeing it around on Hacker News and Reddit. It just kept popping up. And for someone like me, I need to be hit over the head a few times for something really to sink in. But I just kept seeing this term and this phrase, and one day I just kind of dug in. Okay, what is this thing? Let me research it. This guy on Reddit says it's going to go to 10K. I thought there's no way. At the time, it was like $150. I was like, okay, I'm just going to buy one just in case it goes to 10K. And as a consumer mobile, as a product builder, as a long-term, founder and startup guy, I immediately thought, like, what are the things that I could build around it? So like I was hacking on some side projects and things like that, but there wasn't a whole lot you could do back then because there wasn't much infrastructure at all.
Right.
But it wasn't until like Ethereum came around and the light bulb really went off around, wow, I can actually, merge my passion of blockchain with like what I do during the day, which is build products. I can actually bring them together. When I saw that like crypto kitties are now a thing, NFTs are a thing. We can actually put assets on chain. It's not just sending money to your friends, right? It's like we can actually build products and we can build out infrastructure and we can tie, art and collectibles to these on-chain assets. So that's really when the light bulb really went off for me as like a builder. So that's my little story.
So for you, when you first encountered Bitcoin, it was just gonna buy it for the heck of it and then looking for ways to, like, did you dig into it? Did you explore it as a technology, like the blockchain and stuff?
Yeah, I was fascinated, blown away. I thought it was so weird that like it feels like a tech primitive was just discovered, or in 2010 or whenever. It was, white paper came out in 2009. It blew me away that we just discovered this new, what seemed like a technological primitive, and all the applications that could be built on that. Of course, like a lot of people, and I'm sure we'll get into it, the number go up was the most interesting thing initially. The opportunity that like this could go up. Okay, I see how this, I could play this forward in my head around an asset that's natively digital, and I could see where that goes. Where someday it could be worth thousands of dollars. So that's what really caught my attention. But I didn't really know that like we could build this whole infrastructure that could one day, replace the entire financial infrastructure that could kind of change how we think of digital assets. I obviously didn't think it could lead to, where we're at today. So it was more of like a passing interest, and maybe if what I'm reading online is true, I should maybe set aside a couple Bitcoin just in case. And then of course, it was enough. I wouldn't say I like dove in full, jumped in with both feet at that point. It really wasn't until Ethereum and the invention of smart contracts where I, truly got so engaged to make it my full-time job. But yeah, it kind of pays to be curious, and a lot of times it leads nowhere. But sometimes, it actually pays off to be incessantly curious. And I was always, I was early into like podcasting, like in 2004, and
Oh wow, that's really early.
yeah, and like I used to speak on panels around podcasting in those early days, and like um, before Apple got into it, before iPhone, like early. So
Yeah.
I always tried to like, I don't know, just like try to be early and interest, like the things that like we don't really know, and like it's going to take us, the people who are involved, to kind of determine where it goes. So it's really that stuff is really fun for me, just like figuring out my curiosity, and yeah, it's been rewarding.
That's amazing. That's so cool. I love it that you were so early to podcasting. I thought you were gonna say like 2009 or 2008, but 4 is really early.
It was, I remember listening to a podcast while I'm in line about to vote in the 2004 election, and people
Oh,
complaining that it looked like Bush was going to win again. And so yeah, this was early
definitely.
on my
Wow.
iPod. And there was only like, you had to plug in your iPod, you had to download something special. This was like right when RSS was a thing, and it used this special app. The guy was Adam Curry, who kind of like led the charge, and that downloaded MP3 to this app, and then you had to move it over into your iTunes, and then it had to sync with your iPod, right? And then you
Yeah.
could take your iPod and then go for a walk and listen to,
Oh,
audio. It
iPod.
was wild.
I miss iPod. iPod was so good. Amazing. Love it. Well, curiosity definitely doesn't always kill the cat, right? Sometimes rewards the cat.
There you go.
Devon, what's your origin story? What was your light bulb moment when crypto made sense?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'd love to hear that from you, Jordan. I love that line, it can pay to be curious. I love that. I've always, kind of thought of myself as a very curious person, and I've always just been kind of, dabbling in new things. Definitely was not as quick to the curve as you were on, definitely on podcasting, but even on crypto as well. I think it was 2016 or so. I mean, in probably 2011, maybe 2012, someone told me about it, and I think I had the same reaction everyone else did. I was like, okay, yeah, we'll see where that goes. And they were like, no, seriously, just do this, buy a little bit. And I was like, it looks weird, it's sketchy, I don't know, whatever. And I, of course, put it off, as we all did. And you look back on those moments and go, oh, yeah, duh, right? I mean, it makes so much sense now. And as a curious person, you should have, put more thought and energy into it. But it was about 2016. I think that was around the time where like more like consumer friendly apps started coming out. I think my first investments were like through Coinbase. So it definitely wasn't anything that was like crazy primitive by the time I really got in and adopted it. But definitely at that point started seeing the tech for what it was and the potential that it had for the future. So my background, for the last decade or so, I've run a creative agency. So we kind of have been on, all things, front end software and design and all that stuff for different brands. And we did, the corporate world for a long time. And kind of while we were sort of in that corporate structure and building for clients over there, our thoughts and ideas were started like looking at this technology, and we were like, this is just really interesting. There's got to be a future here. It was probably still a bit too technical for us. We're sort of more front end guys, so the technical stuff didn't fully jive with us, but we made some small investments and started, doing the same thing I think everyone else did in the beginning, which is like the refresh of the Coinbase app every 10 minutes to see the volatility. And it was exciting and refreshing and fun. And so that was sort of like early steps and stages. And then I like to, I guess, just kind of think about like, we really got sucked in, I think, as everyone else did, and maybe this isn't a surprise, but in like early 2021, as things really started ramping up, I know that's when like everyone entered the space. But for us, it was like, it was this light bulb moment where it was this intersection of this tech that we had believed in for years, but didn't really know how to harness or utilize. But then now it was like, there's a way to be really creative here. And I think it ties in with what you had said about Ethereum being that like aha moment. It was like, there is like key utilities and use cases for this. And so we started just to get really excited. Myself, my business partner, we started diving in head first into the 2021 grind of what that was. I'm sure we all miss and hate that at the same time. What a wonderful time for everybody. So we got heavily involved, and really quickly, I think we started just feeling like we're not having a bunch of fun doing creative work for these corporate clients. I want to work within the Web3 space. I want to work with these people who are pushing the boundaries of creativity, because there is no cap to that. We found ourselves at this intersection of incredible, a future tech that is just pushing, the limits, and then just this expanded creativity. So it was about 2 years after that, as I guess 22, 23, we kind of sold our office building and went fully remote and like kind of let go of some of our corporate clients. And we were like, we're going to sort of give ourselves a runway to become an agency within the Web3 space, which has been great. We've done some fun work with some great clients, and then kind of figured eventually, once we land on like something we're truly passionate about, as we continue to observe the space and understand what it's about. I think every passing year you look back and go, I knew nothing a year ago compared to what I know now. And then like a year ago you thought you knew something, but you look back a year before that and you're like, oh my gosh, I literally knew nothing. And so it's just this learning curve in this space is fast. But if you're curious, I think it does pay and reward. So we started building something we're really passionate about. I'm excited to talk about that a bit later. But yeah, that was sort of the introduction, and just was this slow onboard for me, which is interesting because I love to be an early adopter. But of course, the things that are most important to adopt early are the ones you tend to sleep on. And maybe I was a little later to the curve than Jordan on this one.
Well, it has been my observation that it's been easier for people who are either with finance background. I feel like they were the first people, the first wave that came into crypto. And then the second wave is the technologists that came in with Ethereum. And then the creatives came with the third wave with the NFTs and in the cycle of 2021 and into 22. I personally joined with that group. I missed the first time I was told about Bitcoin by my friend who was mining it in 2013. Made the mistake of Googling it. And I think that kind of contributes to my desire to do this podcast and talk more about crypto and explain it as a valuable proposition for society and for the world. Because when I Googled it in 2013, all I found out is that bad people are using it for bad things. And I didn't join then, which is, of course. But yeah, so, well, we've all gone through these different waves and different iterations of our relationship with crypto, but we're going to be digging into crypto art, of course, because both of you are working in that space and around that. I'm curious, what are the most prized pieces in your art collections? Can you talk about them a little bit?
My most prized possession, it's got to be the CryptoPunk for me. My purple hat CryptoPunk 6597. I think it's just become my online identity. I can't imagine seeing someone else use it as their avatar, so I can't really imagine ever selling it. It's a PFP, but I also like its art. It it predates almost everyone in this space, right? The CryptoPunk project is just legendary. It launched so many careers, so many projects. It predates the standard, the NFT standard. It was way before we even called them NFTs. Getting
What
to
did we
meet,
call them then?
I don't even know what we called them back then. I remember in 2018 going to a conference and seeing Matt and John on stage, the founders, and talking about this fun little silly project where we got art on the blockchain and everyone was really excited. But it didn't occur to me at that time to go pick some of these things up. It wasn't until like I kind of just made the decision to like, okay, I'm gonna be the NFT guy. I'm gonna jump in, and I figured I better put my money where my mouth is. And in early 21, ended up picking up my punk, and that obviously led to a lot of things. And being in the punk community has just been really great. There's some really OGs and some really great builders in that community, very supportive. So outside, like what it means holding that means a lot as well. A lot of those early projects for me are the ones that I really hang on to. The first NFT, collection as a builder that I launched was in 2020. I'd done some silly stuff in 2019, but in 2020 I launched a NFT platform, and getting to work with some artists early on. Our first real artist was Sven Evervine, and some of the projects that he launched on that first platform it was really like the first time I really got to work with an artist. So some of those are in my possession, and I just love those early Art Blocks pieces as well. Just hold a special meaning, and I can't ever imagine them leaving my collection.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's interesting with PFPs. I recently sold my ape, and it was definitely a moment of separation for me, but I don't think I ever fully identified with the community. And so I think that allowed me to actually finally make that step, even though I wish financially I should have made that decision earlier. But hey, I arrived at it when I did, and there's always regrets with all those decisions. You can never catch either top or bottom. But I totally relate to that idea of it's hard to imagine. I don't want to know who is using it now. I don't think whoever bought it is using it as their PFP. I think they purchased it purely as an asset. So it's okay with me as long as nobody else is wearing it. Devon, what are some of your favorite pieces?
I think my answer is definitely going to be a bit different. I am certainly not a notable collector in the space, in the sense that, my assets probably aren't quite as high value. Definitely been working my way up with the goal of getting a CryptoPunk. That's, of course, a goal for so many people, and me as well. I definitely, I check the website every day. I can't afford one yet, but I'm working on it. But I check it every day anyways, just to see if it's, perfect. I need to remortgage the house or something I need to do to make sure I get my identity CryptoPunk. No, I'm just kidding. So my collector journey has been a little bit different. When I jumped into the space, I think, like a lot of people in 2021, it was very PFP focused, right? Like the art side of things wasn't really, what everyone was looking at. So I went in, trying to grind the Discord whitelist for community. And of course, so many of us went through that trauma and hell. But I think, so I started there. So early on, I think that, like I said, looking back a year and then a year, you go, what were you doing, right? Sometimes I just scroll back to the beginning of my earliest wallet and go, what were you thinking? What, right? And I think we can all do that, right? And then go, you're an idiot.
We'll do that.
But I know, I just don't do that. That's the advice there. So I started, I think, with like my vision was in the wrong place, which is why I'm so excited about like, having it fully on the art side now. And I'm learning more and more every single day about, about those artists and just like thoroughly enjoying that. So in the beginning, I think my initial liquidity definitely went to the wrong places. I think a lot of us can agree with that. And then over the last few years, I think a lot of the people that are still here that maybe aren't notable collectors or don't have, the larger bags or hadn't invested early and had those, profits rolled into the space, you're kind of, working with the smaller budget stuff. And so I think some of my favorite pieces are just, probably from artists you've never heard of, but have just become really good friends of mine over the years, I think is the best way that I can answer that. So I started in 22, I started kind of my first sort of art project, which was called 5 Lines. It was just a super simple, kind of minimal, one of one art pieces. The thing started scaling a community through there. Still some of my favorite people. A lot of the people in that community started like trying out artwork for the first time, and it inspired them because I never kind of saw myself as an artist. And so I kind of put myself out there with all the imposter syndrome that came with it, and ended up developing a really cool community of, I think, like the little guys, right? The guys who play in that smaller liquidity pool and are looking for the different things that might be worth their time and energy and value. And so, yeah, some of my pieces have been, from my friends, and they might not be ones that are worth a lot in the future, but they just, hold a special place in my heart. But yeah, as I continue to look more into the fine art of the crypto side of things, I think, I have my sights set on some things I'd like to get when the liquidity rolls in, and we're hoping that one day that's accessible.
Well, what are some of those things that you, aside from the crypto like, what are some of your favorite artists that you would love to?
Yeah, such a good question. I mean, a huge art blocks fan, right? I mean, I definitely want to, get more involved in art blocks, and that's just one of those things where it's such a massive beast and so many incredible things to look at, and you want to like look in a million directions. And so definitely segmenting that and figuring that out. I want to. Oh, it's such a big question. I probably should have like prepared a good answer for this one because I've got so many things that are on the radar, and then you're like, I don't know where it would go. I don't get to spend a bunch of time thinking about it. It's a bunch of lofty goals for me. But like, for example, I think someone just put together like what they're calling like the World Peace DAO with like Joe Pease's new piece, and like everyone's trying to put in 1 ETH, sort of fractionalize that, and that's maybe attainable for me. And so like, I'd love to have a peace piece in my collection. So maybe that's kind of one thing I'm looking towards, and just like things like that.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's interesting that how crypto actually provides the opportunity to participate in ownership in ways that were not there before. And we'll get into those innovative aspects of crypto art in a little bit. But I do want to dig into 2021 a little more before we move forward, because it was such a formative moment for the crypto art and crypto in general, because thus far it was the biggest high, the highest peak that we have reached, and it had such a heavy presence of all those art things, and of course it brought in a lot of people, it enriched a lot of people and engaged a lot of people, it burned a lot of people. So what was your experience, Jordan? You were already in the space, you kind of knew your way around. As it was rolling in, how did you navigate the territory? How did you think about, you mentioned that you got into punks, you got the punk, you decided to put your money where your mouth is, and I very much relate to that. That was my same motivation with me when I got into NFTs. Okay, I got to buy one to go through the experience. So what were your steps and what were the learnings that you took out of that era?
Man, 21 was such a blur. Yeah, as mentioned, it wasn't my first, cycle. Getting in 2013, 2014, watching Bitcoin rise and fall. I was there kind of in 2017 as things started heating up again, and then crashed just as quickly, if actually really suddenly, at the end of 2017, early 2018. And it's at that point where I decided to jump in full time, and I went, I've been full time since early 2018. So this was kind of like 4 years in for me as a full-time person, and really my first real big wave as a builder. So I joined full-time. I joined a startup in 2018. In 2019, I went to work for Consensus, the big blockchain company. Was there for a few years building in DeFi and doing some interesting things with um, some really cool projects and launching some protocols. I was working with the MetaMask team uh, here and there, but it wasn't until like what we call DeFi summer, which was 2020, where the light bulb went off around NFTs. So, I was really interested in NFTs even before the 21 wave. The project that I've been referencing earlier, this NFT project, was called Meme. Don't buy Meme. Now there's a bunch of projects that call themselves Meme, but we were the first, and we were doing some interesting things with NFTs. And you can stake a token to mint points that let you redeem for NFTs. So we were doing some interesting things at the intersection of DeFi and NFTs. And that was at the end of 2020. So we were going in full steam ahead the start of 21. And in February of 21, as it appeared that things were really heating up, there was now Top Shot, there was now Art Blocks, Bored Apes wasn't there yet, but like things were really starting to heat up. For better or worse, I decided to kind of shut down this side project, community project of Meme, and join this brand new company that was starting off. So I joined as a head of product and co-founder of this company called Nifties.com. And so I co-founded that. There were 6 of us co-founders. Never starting another company with that many people. There were so many great people, but like there's so many cooks in the kitchen, right? It's really hard to get decisions made. So we start in February of 21. Yeah, at this, like, okay, we raised a bunch of money. We got a bunch of really smart people. You can probably track the rise and fall of the NFT market with like the companies rise and fall. We raised a bunch of money. We had all these goals. We partnered with companies like Warner Brothers and Sony, and we launched big collections with the
Yeah. Didn't you launch the Matrix?
The Matrix. We launched the Matrix NFT collection. We launched the Bugs Bunny Looney Tunes thing when Space Jam came out. We did Game of Thrones after I had left. They did Game of Thrones. So like all the big movie and like IP of that year, we helped launch. And it was like just when Hollywood and these big companies were getting into it. So I got to see it at the beginning of this small project, and then it turned into like this huge company. And it was quite a wild ride, and it was there's definitely a lot of learning experiences. Thankfully, I was able to turn that into a positive, and we learned a lot, made a lot of great friends, and but like so many lessons learned, so many good things and bad things that happened that year. But the biggest thing I think would be like even like my advice has always been build for me. I love building the things that I'm most interested in, right? Like as a product guy, that's either really good advice or really bad advice, because you really shouldn't build something that only you yourself care about, right? You should build something that
that can
has a
be
market,
tricky.
and you should be talking to users, and you should be digging it like. But for me, I knew that I could only kind of put that energy inside something that like I really cared about and really had knowledge about. Um, but I kind of went a little bit I went a little hard too fast, because it was like, okay, this is going to be the next big thing. Let's quickly assemble a team. Let's go raise a bunch of money. When the thoughtful approach would have been maybe take a little bit slower and build in increments. But that was kind of the market that we were in. Investment money was flying around. It's like, we got to take this opportunity to kind of plant our flag. So that's really, and starting a company with co-founders that I had only met one time in person. They're all great people, but it was just like we were kind of rushed in this direction of, hey, someone wants to give us a bunch of money to start this company, let's go do it. So even that's something that's moves so quickly and so volatile like crypto, it pays to just, take a little bit longer than you think you need to really make sure you're making the right decision. Obviously, you don't want to waste that opportunity and that that momentum. But the landscape is littered with companies that like were first to launch, but the ones that were second or third to launch with a better model or a better product that are actually still around. So it really just kind of changed my perspective on like how to start a business in a quick moving space. And there's no surprise that like after I left that company, I went to start my current company, VenturePunk, where I'm the solo founder. And that came with a bunch of learnings on itself and how that is often a bad idea as well. So definitely still learning, but that was really like, yeah, it was quite a drastic change. But it was interesting because it was like, it was crazy ideas, crazy tech, with like a rocket underneath it, right? And we had to kind of figure things out as we went. So of course, there's going to be lessons learned and bad decisions made and everything. I think overall positive, but like there's a lot of takeaways that I'm still kind of figuring out as we go.
Thank you for sharing this and so openly. I really always appreciate that about you, Jordan. Skylab as AA for founders, always kind of rooted in your energy and your desire and your ability to share your builder experience vulnerably and truthfully. And it's so, so valuable. Thank you so much for this. I want to dig into a little bit into Nifties because, of course, with background in film industry, that's kind of what brought me into the space, the idea of managing IP on chain, and not just fandom and things like that, but licensing contracts. Because as a producer, one of the things that I used to do specifically in documentaries is clearances, and clearances is the most tedious and painful job in film, I think, because you have to clear every tiny piece of IP that goes into a documentary. And on the last one that I worked prior to entering crypto, I had a spreadsheet with 1,000 lines that I had to clear from different archives and providers. It was insanity. And when I realized what smart contracts are and that they can simplify all of that, I was like, wow, it's going to happen. It's not going to happen tomorrow, but it can be done and it will be done. And when it's done, it's going to change the entire film industry and how it's funded, how films are distributed, everything. To be honest, actually, I have moved on from that thought a little bit. I don't know where we're going to land, but I don't necessarily think that huge studios are going to be doing things that way because they are comfortable and set in their ways. And I think that way of life will go on. But with social media, and especially with AI, managing IP and finding a way to reward creators, that's where blockchain really can contribute. But going back to 21, when we were all excited about the big guys entering the space, and of course, Matrix, Game of Thrones, oh my God, everybody's paying attention. Can you share some of those conversations that you were having with these studios? How were they seeing us at that time? Was that just a cash grab for them? Was that an experiment? What was it like?
Yeah, I was definitely, my eyes were open and like wanting to work with companies that got it, that understood it, because it, like as you said, there were a lot of cash grabs. There were a lot of people that, or companies that said, hey, if I just slap my brand on this or my logo or my name, we instantly get, $1 million or whatever. Working with some of those big guys, you can kind of tell pretty early on with those initial conversations if they're in it for the right reason. Not to pick on Warner Brothers, they're a huge, centrally-held company. The teams that we were working with initially, right, their biz dev teams, their creative teams, they were authentic and they got it and they wanted to do it for the right reasons. Of course, being such a huge company, it has to pass through every department and their boss's boss and everything. So by, our idea of what it could be compared to the final product, they look night and day a lot of times. And, so it was a difference between like, oh, this small organization within this larger company has this really great idea, wants to do some cool things, but then it's got to go through legal. And then it's got to go through, all the clearances and everything. And a simple example would be, we wanted to launch this collection and then they wanted to make sure that like copyright Warner Brothers was like at the bottom of every NFT, like in the art of every asset. It was like, oh man, this is not fun. We got to slap all these, legal things all over it.
It's just like so counter to the whole idea.
Yeah. And it's like, okay, I get it. You have a big brand to support. This is one tiny experiment. But it was really hard at a certain point of like, getting, and, on my side and the product side and the creative side, we had all these amazing ideas and then they get shot down. And it's just kind of what you get with working with big companies. To their credit, though, they did some interesting things in those early days, some that were successful, some that weren't. It was just kind of like what we get when we have something that's just like on the creative side, just again on a rocket ship, and no one knows what to do with this. No one knows how long this will last or what the actual application of this is going to be. So I credit them for taking even small risks on something that's so valuable, like their intellectual property. But yeah, there were a lot of tough conversations and a lot of bummer moments when we were really excited about something just to get the rug pulled at the finish line.
And so what is your sense now? I know you're not with that company anymore, but do you think these bigger players, bigger IPs, they're going to be still interested in participating in the space in some way, or are they done?
Well, there's something to be said about like IP that gets created from the ground up from the community that like are in it now, like the CryptoPunks, like a lot of these other projects that are still around. But I don't think it's over for these big, like notable projects. If you still, I don't know, I'm a big baseball fan. I'm a big sports fan in general. I like a lot of movies and TV shows. I think if there were some of my favorite brands and characters came to the blockchain again, but did it in the right way, did it in kind of like a slow drip, or it was clear that it wasn't a cash grab, and it was clear that there's something fun, some experience that I otherwise wouldn't have, I'd be interested. And I know a lot of other people would be too. So it's not going to look like it did in 2021 where people were just like rushing to get something out. I think it's going to be more organic, and we're seeing some really interesting things from a lot of different brands out there now. But I think doing it the right way, approaching it, like I said, in a way that like couldn't exist without blockchain, couldn't exist without this tech. I think like for a lot of these brands, the IP is strong enough and is like built into our brains. We have such a nostalgic, passion for a lot of these characters and, media properties that like, maybe they're not called NFTs. Maybe no one knows they're on the blockchain in a couple of years. That's kind of always the meme, right? Users are doing something, they don't know it's on chain, but there are benefits to why it's on chain. I could see that kind of coming back in a healthy way. I'm all for that.
Yeah, it's funny. I used to think that NFT as a term would go away, but then I thought COVID as a term, it doesn't make any sense. I mean, it's supposed to be COVID-19 because id is like ID 19, so it's like like coronavirus, right? Like ID 19, like COVID is not a word, it's a nonsensical word, but it's totally stuck around. We all say COVID, oh, he got COVID. Oh, I'm getting tested for COVID. So now I think actually the word NFT might stick around, because it does mean that this thing on chain that is tradable, collectible thing, and I think that's what we will stick to. There will be other forms of NFTs, NFT technology, non-fungible token technology applied to other things, but they will be called other things. But that term will, I think, will stick around. Devon, what was your experience in 21? You shared some of it, but can you dig a little bit more into the learnings and how it impacted you as a builder, and what did you take out of that as a builder?
Yeah, absolutely. So much fun. Again, just to hear you talk about all the like building in that time had to have been absolutely insane. And so I think that, majority of people, when we think about 2021, 99% of us are thinking about it from purely like the outsider perspective. We're purchasing, the items and collecting them and participating in the communities and stuff. But the building side of it at that time must have been truly incredible. So of course was not, building in the space at that time. So I definitely take that other kind of outsider approach to things. But it was the rat race we all, like I said, know, love, and hate. It was crazy. It was scrambling to get those exact drops because there was this massive speculation involved. And I think that, I guess just to talk about that for a second, I think, on the concept of like, larger brands bringing their IP into the space. I agree. I don't think that's dead. I think there's a ton of room for it. There's a ton of value behind it. But we as adopters of this technology need to quit correlating the speculation of the future with what those drops are. I don't think we can expect these massive brands to like hold our hand and guide us as we create a community. They got, a billion other things going on. Like you said, it's just an experiment. It's a small piece of a larger pie to them, and generally a very small piece. So if we can remove the speculation from that, and again, the same with art as well. A lot of people say, pick up the art that you personally enjoy and take the speculation out of it. And you start to, I think, have a better experience because you're collecting things that you love. And if the Minnesota Vikings or the Minnesota Twins, my hometown team, if they came on and wanted to do something, I'd be right there, not because I wanted to flip it, but because those are teams I support, and similar sentiment to movies and shows and things like that. So, definitely not dead. So I just wanted to iterate on that, talk on that point because I think it's a speculation issue more than anything. But that's what 2021 was, I guess, which is why I circled back around to it. It was pure speculation from every angle possible, from the big brand IPs to the, I think the buzzwords, the WAGMI and the metaverse and the, all these kind of colloquial terms that sort of emerged in that time, which we look back on. And I maybe have a similar thought, I guess, on the NFT thing as well. Like, could that go the way of the dodo at some point? Maybe. I also think that, like we thought like WAGMI was never going to go away, and now it's like a really cringe thing to say and no one says it anymore. And so I do think that like the sensibilities change over time. As bags go down, things change. It's such a wild environment, and we all know that. But 21 was really just the curiosity year. It was, I see a million people left and right making money, and I think everyone kind of came into the space with that idea. Like, if I come in with more money than I left, then that's good. And if I make a few friends along the way, that's even better. I think the people that are still here are the ones that found a new hierarchy within that, and they valued the friendships made over the money lost or gained or whatever. And I think those are the people that stuck around through the cycles after that. And so definitely someone that found so much love for what that was, in that time, and again, made friends. But even beyond that, it was it's exciting. Innovation is always exciting, and when things are like moving at such a rapid pace, and there's always something to see, how can you get bored? And so I just tried to just stay on the top of everything every single day. Tried to never let myself get bored, which is really easy to do. And then here you are, you find yourself, 3-4 years later, and you're still in the same place with a few of the same people, and you're all better off for it. So yeah, from a non-builder perspective, I was in the rat race and I suppose in the trenches with everyone else, just kind of scrambling to make a dime and make a friend. And I'm happy with, the way it all turned out.
That's awesome. Well, it's really cool to. I was there in the trenches with you. I wasn't grinding the discords. I didn't have the patience for it, but I was definitely following a lot of the projects, and I kind of dove into. I made the decision, the commitment that I want to work in the space, and I was trying to figure out a way to apply myself, and started working for a startup, and then things happened, and as they happen to startups. But I do want to dig into a little bit this whole energy, the Degen energy, which went totally bananas in 2021, and it remains. And in this news cycle, we also see it with Memecoins, and we see it with different protocols and chains trying to use different incentivization and tokenization techniques and mechanisms and models, trying to harness this curiosity and power it with those things. But oftentimes it has its run, and then it has very little after. The most recent, probably epic example is Blast, that a lot of people are disappointed with. Still playing out, not saying that it's a total disaster. Obviously, a lot of value has been created. We'll see how that plays out. We've seen that with other protocols and projects. Farcaster blew up. A lot of people are sticking around, but activity is definitely slower and different compared to when the farming season was in. So really curious on, Jordan, your vision and your view on the balance of this speculative energy and the builder energy, and how to merge them and how to balance them correctly.
Yeah, that's a good question. It's really hard. It's really hard to build something and kind of put everything into it creatively as well, and then have it not take off because of like the degen incentives aren't there. So I
Yeah.
feel for all these projects that like launch something really cool, but it just doesn't take off because people are more attracted to the number go up. But at the same time, like, we're here because of that, that incentive, right? A lot of us join the space because there's an opportunity to make money. So it is all about balancing the two. So I don't have the answers at all. It's something that I'm working on myself around. How do you when the market is currently focused on memes and meme coins and social and all this stuff, but you want to kind of push the art stuff forward at the same time. How do you play the game that's on the field by like keeping art a priority, or keeping this idea of like building up artists and giving artists tools? It's really tough. So a lot of what we've been doing, and a year ago I launched prohibition.art, which is an open generative art NFT platform where the focus was like, we want to turn everyone into generative artists. So really focusing on the art, focusing on the concept of one of X. But demand has slowed down. Current meta again is more social and fun and cheap mints on other blockchains. So a couple months ago, we made the announcement that we're coming to base, and we're going to be doing other things like editions rather than generative mints, and cheaper prices, and in some cases some free mints, and more social, and you can mint in a Farcaster frame. So that's something that we've done recently to try to play up that, play the game that's on the field, as I said, and like try to balance the two. And my goal has always been, my goal for the last little while has been, maybe tiptoe into the degen game, but try to incept degens into why art is cool and why they should be paying attention to these artists. I just, it's something that we've seen cycle cycle through over and over again in the last decade. I remember trading, we called them altcoins back then, but they were nothing more than meme coins back in 2014. It just kind of happens every time, and we kind of have to, we wanted a decentralized ecosystem. This is kind of what we get, right? Anyone can just launch anything, and it's getting easier and easier to do so. I think we have to take it as a net positive, because it's bringing in more people that hopefully will stay for the art, hopefully will stay for the right reasons. So I know a lot of people hate on it. I don't think that's the right approach. I think we need to learn from it, and we need to take those as lessons, and why are people more interested in a fungible token with a fuzzy animal versus a non-fungible token that has a variety of fuzzy animals. I don't know, being silly, but I think you have to. It's a lesson learned, and it's all just one big experiment, and we're learning with every cycle, with every new launch. So again, I don't have all the answers, and I'm still struggling with it and trying to figure it out, how to play in this new space.
Yeah, Devon, what's your thoughts on harnessing degen energy and finding ways to channel it? Like, you were in those trenches with all the degens. What's your feeling? How to move it?
Yeah. Well, I think attention spans across the board. Let's look outside of Web3, right? And just look at the broader spectrum of in the moment content on our fingertips. If you go out anywhere, it's honestly atrocious. The fact that you're going to look at a table of a family eating dinner, out at dinner, and every single one of them is just on their phone, because they find this the instant, in the moment content consumption era is upon us, and everyone is just so addicted to that, whether it's the dopamine rush of a or it's just that one scroll away there might be something that's going to make me laugh, or whatever it is, and everyone is so obsessed with the attention that our attention spans have gone down. And so how do we remedy that? Well, you need to incentivize someone for stickiness, right? And so it seems like this natural progression to sort of combat looking at the next shiny object is to try to get someone to stick with you for as long as possible. And I think we call it degen activity, or farming and whatever, and we've got our own sort of names for it. But at the end of the day, if you're a product builder, you have to have people sticking around on your app. And that's why something like TikTok, for example, the incentive there may not be monetary, but it is dopamine in its own right? And so I don't know, I try to look outside of the space before I make any harsh judgments on what anyone's doing with their time. That being said, there's some wild farming things, and I've looked at some and been all right, maybe that's a bit much. And the take over the timeline stuff. I think Portal was incredible. I don't know how that all shook out. I didn't participate. Anything that sort of requires timeline stuff, I've generally stayed out of. But at the end of the day, I was that's heavy, right? You have to engage your community, and you have to constantly be this ambassador and whatever. And I think that's a big ask of people. And so there's got to be a middle ground, right? We incentivize the sticky use because it benefits, us as a platform. It should benefit you in some way, and then we mutually win. But then there's definitely those ones that are sort of those outliers of the spectrum that I think are totally wild. And I didn't participate in Blast. I was not in the headspace for another L2, and I was just not ready to go in on that. Luckily, I guess, looking back on it, I was sure the whole time. Every day went by, I'm an idiot, should have done it yesterday. And the next day you say the same thing, and then eventually you do nothing. And I probably should have been the one to take the L, in that. I guess I wasn't. I feel for everyone that, invested so much energy, but we have to pick and choose our battles here. Again, there's a million shiny things to look at, and you can't be mad at someone who's keeping eyeballs. I think as a product guy, it's pretty impressive. Maybe some shady ways that shakes out at the end, and maybe that's what we can sort of kind of shake a stick at and be hey, maybe not next time. But outside of that, I don't know. How do we then convert that to things that matter? I mean, I can sort of parlay that into, again, what we're doing over at White Walls and why I think that, we are going to change some things just about like the current meta and the way that we're like speculating on art and things like that. And again, I want to product plug right now. If there's a time to do that later, I'd be happy to tell you more about
now
what
is the perfect time. Let's do it.
Well, because I bring it up because we do have kind of the. Okay, all right. Well, I'll circle back around then, sort of our sticky mechanic, a farming mechanic, if you will, because there is a piece to it. But I think we're doing it in a really unique and organic way that I'm proud to be, representing. And so maybe, hopefully, y'all feel the same way when I get there. But just as a base overview, the product that we're building is called White Walls. It's kind of based off the necessity and this, idea a few years ago when we were in 2021 in the trenches buying art that we finally enjoyed, and at that point it was PFPs, right? But then it kind of transitioned into art, and we were like trying to inspire our team to get involved in Web3. It was myself and my business partner were like heavily involved, and our team was sort of handling a majority of our client-based stuff. But there's an itch every day. We wanted to be in Web3 more, and so we wanted to motivate them to understand the space. And so we had all these TVs in our big office space, and we were like, I want our art streamed down here. We want to show off our art so we can say, hey, we bought this piece. This is the artist. This is why it matters. Let's all groove on this. Let's get excited about it. And we were like, how do we do that? Okay, well, we have to right-click save and then add it to like, Apple TV's, Photos album or whatever. That's not blockchain native. There's nothing, positive there. At that time, I think people were like Token Frame, for example, was just starting to come out. There was a few players that were making dedicated hardware frames. They were expensive. We weren't ready to make that investment yet. We felt like our investment was probably better suited in the space and in buying more things and playing the game more. And so we had this like kind of just this thought. And again, we're product and ideas guys, but we're like, okay, we have these TVs. What a low-hanging fruit it would be if we could activate these TVs as digital art displays. Everyone already owns a large display in their home, in their office, in their more personal spaces. And so we ended this brainstorm as we usually did, like, okay, well, someone will be working on that. I'm sure someone's working on it now, and we'll just wait until it comes out. And we got back to business as usual. And then a year went by, and then another year went by, and every year we sort of look back on it and we're like, how has no one done this yet? And it's actually been the biggest question that we've got every time we do a demo. They're like, why has no one done this yet? And I don't have an answer for that. I think a few people have tried, but we're tackling it with maybe a bit of a different approach. But essentially, White Walls is for the moment, it's a 2-app ecosystem. It's a mobile phone, a PWA, it's a progressive web app, so think friend tech. So it's not like an app, it's a save to home screen sort of web style app where you verify all of your assets that you own across all major chains. So right now we're activated on Ethereum with a bunch of great L2s, including Base and Zora, Optimism, Polygon. We'll be rolling out Solana support, ordinals support, and Tezos support soon as well. So you basically connect your wallets. We have delegate access as well, so you can get into your kind of vaulted assets, and it becomes your remote. So then you pair that to a smart TV app and instantly turns any TV into a stream that kind of takes the blockchain art and natively in real time streams it from the chain directly into your living space. And so we kind of look at it as like bridging the gap between digital ownership and physical viewership in a way that is maybe a bit more democratized and available and accessible. And so in doing that, we've got a lot of bells and whistles and fun things we're working on that make it a really exciting experience and maybe hopefully a sticky experience as well. But we have a lot of really lofty goals that come with it. I think one of the bigger ones is that we're starting to have incredible conversations with our parents or our in-laws or our kids. We're all, we all have families. I've got 5 kids at home. My business partner's got 2. All of us have kids, and they're starting to go up to these TVs over here and like get up close and look at them and start to ask questions about how is that art there? Well, we get to talk about blockchain. What is this brushstroke? Or who is this artist? And we're having meaningful conversations with people who previously might have been in that camp that said, we've all dealt with it, right? And I think the trope is like the Thanksgiving dinner, and they're like, oh, how's that crypto thing going for you? And, depending on what year we're in, it's either really good or it's, we're the laughing stock of the table. But the people who don't understand it, the biggest thing that they say is it's just trapped in your phone. What do you really do with it? It doesn't, how do you know you own it? There's all these questions that come with it because it isn't immediately available in your physical space. And I think that that's that little roadblock or barrier that has kept so many people out. So I don't want to say that we're trying to like onboard the next million people into Web3, because I think that's something everyone wants to do, and I hope that everyone can do and play their part. But we have been having incredible conversations with people where they're seeing it, they're going, you own that, okay, and we can stream a new piece directly to it. And this is on the Ethereum blockchain. This is the artist. I don't know how much y'all can see behind me, but we have minted a bunch of the awesome Prohibition dailies. And so these are all some of our favorites that are back there. And we do this thing where we mint and then instantly go and display it in our space. And it's clicking for people, old, young, and they're starting to understand maybe there is value there because it becomes tangible, it becomes real. And so we kind of started to say, when you bring digital art into physical spaces, people can start to look at the art for what it is and stop worrying about what they think it isn't. And I really like that quote because everyone has these preconceived notions of what digital art can't be. But if it exists in the same space as a piece of art you have on your wall, why can it not be that? Let's talk about the beauty of the piece or the story behind it. And so a lot of really, I think interesting things. Again, we're also, Jordan, you were saying, that the meta right now is these low to no cost mints on sites like, Zora, for example. They're doing a great job, of giving, smaller artists a platform to put their work out there. But even that, a lot of the work on there is getting 4 mints, 5 mints, 10 mints, and it's free artwork at the end of the day. But everyone still is looking at it as a speculative thing. If I don't know who the artist is, what incentive do I have to mint that piece? Because it's just gonna, again, I collect it and then it collects dust in my wallet. And so we've found, again, this from all the people that are currently testing the app, we're in an alpha phase right now, we're finding the people are like now surfing Zora differently. And they're like, okay, I want to buy a piece. It doesn't matter who the artist is, but I want to buy it because it's a piece that I think will vibe with my space or change the vibe of my space or whatever. And so it's fun. I don't know. So there's my little plug. To circle back around, I guess, to the point system, we've got a really fun point system we'll be rolling out that is kind of like a communal farming thing. And I'd love to hear y'all's take on it. But essentially, every time you stream an art piece into your space, the primary viewer of the piece, we call the appreciator, the person that's really bringing the piece into their physical space, they're accumulating a lion's share of this point distribution. If it's a shared piece they got from somebody else, the token owner by default in the backend is also getting an allocation of points. And then, of course, the original artist of the work is also getting an allocation of points. So even if they're not users within White Walls, that's going to be backlogging into their account. So the first time they come in, they'll be able to see their distribution of points that they've got just for being on one part of that. And eventually, as we roll out curations, people who are actively curating are going to be receiving portions as well. And so we want to just rightfully, give respects to every person in this ecosystem, because without artists, there would be nothing to collect. Without collectors, there would be no reason to make the art. Without curators, it would be tougher to find the incredible works that you were so accustomed to seeing. And at the end of the day, the people who bring it to their physical spaces to have conversations about it are the real heroes. So that's kind of our mechanic, and it's sort of in its infancy right now, but we'll be rolling that out soon. So there's my long answer to a short question.
That's awesome. I really love what you're doing. I sincerely wish you the best of luck, and I hope you onboard 5 million people into this, because I think that the black square of the TV that's been sitting in our houses and in our offices, right there, it's a hole that can have value. It can carry something. It doesn't have to be just a black square there, and right there is a great value. But what you were talking about, how you're allocating value and how you're engaging all the different participants of this is so cool, because for example, one of my personal prized collections is Clear Silver's piece that I own. And I was very fortunate to find out kind of randomly that she was going to have her first in-person showing in LA a couple years ago, and at Super Chief. And I asked them hey, do you want to exhibit my piece as part of this exhibit? And they were like, yeah, totally, we'll put it up. And my piece was one of the pieces of her first exhibit. And more than that, as I was standing next to the piece taking a picture of it, she actually came up to me and introduced herself. So I got to meet her in person because that piece was on the wall and I was standing next to it. And that memory, if that could be on chain and verified that my piece participated in that first exhibit of hers, could potentially, speaking of collectible value, like not necessarily speculative, but even just the value as a collector to me, to be able to share that story and have that recorded, that would have been super cool. So I think there's a lot that,
can I give
that
you
can be
a
done there.
Oh, absolutely,
Yeah.
and definitely something that's top of mind for us as well. So I'm going to give y'all a little bit of alpha and maybe a little sort of future forward thing. So this won't come out immediately in our beta, but it's something we're sort of building the infrastructure for, and something we're very passionate about as well. And maybe this ties right in. I hope you'll love this. So we see, we talk a lot about provenance, and we look at ownership provenance all the time, and it's who minted what, who owns what, who paid what for what, where did things transfer, et cetera. And the blockchain is so incredible at providing that ledger. And of course, what an incredible value prop we have that only exists in this space. We're starting to look at building out an infrastructure for a viewership provenance. So if you can look at one of your tokens, and instead of just seeing who owns it and who paid what for it, you'll see right next to that, you'll see that piece has been viewed in 42 countries for a total of 59 hours and 26 minutes. It made a notable appearance at, and actually we're talking to Super Chief Gallery as well, at Super Chief Gallery on this date during this event. So again, our first goal here is to activate TVs in consumer homes, but very rapidly we'll go into galleries and more public spaces. And the idea there is that these public spaces can verify their location, and you'll be able to literally see a provenance of exactly what users are looking at pieces, in what countries, what institutions are viewing pieces, and all that type of stuff. So we're building the infrastructure for it. It's something that isn't coming out tomorrow, but is definitely in the works at White Walls. We need to activate a few more TVs first to make it all valuable. But once we get there, it is very much top of mind. So very exciting.
That's awesome. Well, and of course for crypto art, it has to be Times Square. Like, it has to be on chain. That's got to be your
exactly
goal.
100%. We'll get there. Yes, we'll get Times Square on chain. 100%. We'll work on it.
Awesome. Well, we are almost at the end, and I don't want to impose on your time too much, but Jordan, I really want to hear. Devon kind of shared his thesis for this cycle and towards what he's building. Would love to hear what you're building towards, how you're applying all the learnings of the previous cycles and to current moment in crypto art, which may not be the most obviously exciting, but has to be this moment where we're harnessing some energy and growing into something new. Like how are you feeling about crypto art and consumer applications around it?
Actually, to be honest, my brain shut off as soon as I heard that he has 5 kids. That's insane. Oh, man.
You have
barely handled a couple.
2? Okay. Nice. Well, they start handling each other. That's what I'm hearing.
Okay, yeah. No, but honestly, White Walls has been awesome. Shout out to them. They've got my art up there, the Prohibition daily drops up there. Not my art, but my artist's art up there. We just closed season 1 of Prohibition Daily. There we go.
Nice.
I didn't realize that one was the widescreen. That's awesome. That's huge. That looks great. Super cool. Yeah, I've used the app myself, and it's really great. As you see, I have one of those black boxes on my walls here, and that was from one of those defunct device companies that launched a couple of years ago, and they went out of business, and the app no longer works. So it's basically bricked. need to find a
Oh
way to get an Apple
no.
TV connected so that I can get white walls up there. But I just like totally resonate with the idea of like getting this out of the devices, or getting this out of the phones and onto the walls. A lot of what you were saying, Devon, just like totally resonates. And I've got screens and devices and prints all over the place. And I've got one piece downstairs. It's a Fodenza, and I'm able to. It's printed out and signed, but it's really a conversation piece. When people come to visit, they see it and they ask about it. And not only can I talk about NFTs, but I can talk about generative art because it looks just like someone went and created this in Photoshop or whatever. But no, I can say this is actually made in code, and I can show them on my phone. I can show the rest of the collection. So it is cool that. It really is like a two-screen experience, right? I want to see the piece itself, but then I also want to know more about it. I want to know like who else is collecting it and who made this. And okay, this is one piece in a larger set. Show me the other traits. So it really is cool that they're, in addition to just showing things, they're actually digging into the work itself. And I wasn't aware of the points system, so that's really cool. It makes a ton of sense. So good luck on that, man. That's super cool. Yeah, for us, on the builder side, we're at this interesting spot where we are trying to figure out where is this space going. 2 years ago, I launched my company, VenturePunk. VenturePunk aims to like launch a bunch of experiments in this space, and we have over the last couple of years. We've launched some interesting platforms and communities like Skylab, and our own individual projects, our own collections, our own platforms. A year ago, we launched Prohibition. As I mentioned a few months ago, we kind of pivoted to base and started launching more editions. And now, like, I'm kind of calling a timeout just to kind of like evaluate where we're at. We've been so focused on, okay, where's the next thing gonna be? Let's go build it. And I even have plans around like a Memecoin that's art focused. I have, designs and specs around that. But, over the last couple of years, we've been so focused on trying to figure out what that next thing is and rushing into it, and maybe not taking a breath to figure out, okay, that's fun. That scratches the itch that I have, the shiny object syndrome that I have of like figuring out what's next and what I would like to see exist. But it doesn't actually like, maybe it does, or maybe it doesn't help push the space forward, or it doesn't like bring in enough income to pay for a whole team. Or so I'm really kind of taking this opportunity to kind of like, we're in an interesting spot. A lot of companies are struggling. Some are doing better than others because they raised a lot of money. But I'm kind of like taking this as like a kind of an exhale moment to figure out, we paused we've ended the first season. I want this next thing to be something that's that really does help us take us the next step. And so I'm kind of taking a wait and see approach right now. Do we need more edition mints like Prohibition Daily? Do we need more generative art? Do we need more platforms? What is it that this space needs to move forward? So we love art, and there's still a lot of art to be minted. All the Prohibition Daily stuff can be collected on the secondary market on OpenSea. There are a lot of collections on prohibition.art, our generative stuff, that are still actively minting. Heart and Craft is the project that I co-created with Snowfro. I know that's on your wall, Sasha.
Yeah.
I saw that.
There's a poster signed by you.
And that's currently minting as well. Yeah, the signed poster. That was very, very weird, signing things. So there's a lot of art that's to be collected that's out there right now. But in terms of like new things, we're really in this wait and see moment. So, and I think is really good and really healthy for us to kind of figure out what we need to do moving forward.
What are some of the spaces within crypto, within consumer crypto, that you think are worth exploring for you right now? Like, what are you digging into?
Memecoin stuff is always interesting just to kind of follow along. The things that are happening on Farcaster are really interesting. I've for the last couple of months I've jumped into the Farcaster ecosystem. It's really fun how you can mint within a frame. It's really cool all the things you can do as builders, as product people. Really geeking out on what can be built over there. Really cool community, really cool vibe. Um, I think SocialFi is really interesting. It solves several problems, so I think it's really, really fun. Of course, I'm interested to see like the advancements in art and AI art and things that artists and creators are able to do. Um, Really interested to see, you know, I thought it was a joke the first time I heard about L3, but if you spend any time on layer 2 doing anything, like you realize, oh, if we want to do games or if we want to do social, like we're probably going to need an L3. Um, because even though an L2 allows you to spend just a couple cents on a transaction, that adds up when you're doing a lot of transactions. So there's some interesting developments. It's still pretty early, but interesting developments on layer 3s. Yeah, as you know, from going from Bitcoin to Ethereum, from DEXs to DeFi to NFTs and all the different flavors of NFTs to collecting and creating and investing, I've done almost all you can do in this space to launching my own meme coin. Like I've done a lot, so I'm excited to just keep building and keep throwing experiments out there and keep vibing with the community. I'm not going to pretend that I have all the answers of what's to come, but I'm open-minded and I try not to get too deep into my bags or to. I always have to ask myself, where am I being a boomer in my way of thinking, right? Because I've seen it all. I've seen people only care about Bitcoin, and I've seen people only care about Ethereum and throw shade on DeFi, throw shade on NFTs. So I try to think, I try to remove all that bias. So I'm open-minded. I'm open. I'm excited. I think the meme stuff is a net benefit. It's silly now. It may show the mainstream media may look down on the community because of it, but I think it's a net positive in a few months or a few years, whatever this next phase takes hold. I think it's going to be a benefit. It brought in a lot more attention, or it brought in a lot more users or activity or volume. So yeah, I'm just excited to see what's next.
Definitely agree that our industry will find a way through all this experimentation and through this excitement and this degen energy and the degen mechanics. They allow us actually to do a lot of this experimentation, because some of this funds go towards the next experiment and allows the person to launch the next thing and see how that plays out. So it's kind of this perpetual cycle of experiments. And again, as you said, some people look down on it, some people throw shade on it, but there is value to trying things again and again and again. And that's how nature works, and that's how any building works. So really exciting times for us. Devon, you want to share the last piece of wisdom for this year for the builders?
Oh man, I think none of us have all the answers, that's for sure, to just go into Jordan's point there. But what I can say, and that what I think that we, the three of us at least, and what so many of us know, is that there are really good people in this space. And we get a bad rap sometimes, right? And there are definitely bad actors, and there have been bad actors in crypto since day one. And that's why you had the issue when you Googled it that first day and it turned you off. And so, yeah, there are bad actors here. Align yourself with the right people. Keep an eye on the little guys, because those are sometimes the most passionate people. And I know so many people that are building incredible things. hopefully, our team is able to put a small dent in the legitimacy issue that we all face together. And if we can do that, I'll be proud. But there are builders like you too, Jordan, and so many others that are all working so hard to not only legitimize the space, but to make it a fun space to be every day. Because we could all very well just not be here. We all only have the same 24 hours in a day, and we know it's exhausting to be in this space sometimes, to look at a million shiny objects at a time and figure out what matters to you that day. It's tough to be in this space. So I applaud everyone that is truly here, especially to the people that are building in this. Like I said, I couldn't imagine building through the 21 cycle. I'm thrilled to be building through this cycle because I think it's definitely a bit more relaxed. But yeah, follow good people, follow fun projects, be open-minded. Not everything needs to be about the next airdrop. While everyone is scrambling for incentives and attention, that will likely be where the focus is for a while. Grab a few meme coins, hold a few bags, just have fun. That's my advice, I guess. That's what I'm doing day to day. Pick your battles. Don't get burnt out, because we have a long road ahead of us. And I've seen too many people get burnt out way too early, and we are at the very beginning of this marathon. And anyone that is building for the future here understands and knows that. So anyways, like I said, I'm newer here than someone like Jordan, but I've picked up a lot. I've learned a lot, more than last year and more than the year before. And hopefully I know less this year than I will next year. And then hopefully it's the same for all of us.
Yeah, I love that spirit in Web3 where nobody has the answers. We're all just trying things. And that's what I always try to communicate to newer people who come in the space. And it can feel intimidating. And as you said, Devon, the learning curve is pretty steep. But the truth is, you can try and start at any point and just jump into this train, into this wagon, and start doing things by yourself, and preferably with other people. And as you said, again, joining communities and being with good people, following good people is the key. Wow. Thank you so much, guys, for coming on the show. And I hope that both of you will come back in a few months and give me an update about where you land in this cycle. Cheers.
Thank
you, guys.
Thank you so much, Sasha. Appreciate the platform and the time. Y'all have a good one.
Cheers. That was an awesome chat. I just love when builders share the experience vulnerably and truthfully, and you can really hear it in both Jordan and Devon's voices. It's the best stuff for me personally. If you enjoyed this chat as much as I did, please follow on YouTube, follow in your favorite podcatcher, follow on Twitter, on Farcaster, in LinkedIn, and don't forget to check out skylab.xyz and fill out the form and consider joining the club. Check out threshold.network and their Taco Access Control plugin. Check out Build City's website, join their Discord, mint their dream NFT. Come to the event in Nashville. There's going to be a lot going on, more events coming up. They've been hosting events almost at every conference throughout this year. And for NFT holders, those events are free. Otherwise, there's usually a ticket to be purchased. So lots of value there. And I think that's it. That's the show for today. All the links are in the description. Thank you for tuning in. Struggle well, fellow builders. You can do it. Cheers.